Assalamu alaikum, hi everyone. In this tutorial, we are going to take a look at Laravel Nova. So we have an RSVP application that we have done previously, this one. And basically it's an invitation that is shared with others and they fill out the form and submit their information. What we are trying to achieve here is to have an admin panel that enables us to easily manage our campaigns, contacts, and the submissions. And from my experience, Laravel Nova excels in this department as I have been using it for 3 years now. Our roadmap for this tutorial is to install Laravel Nova 4, then create an admin user to be able to log in, create a resource for the campaign model, create a resource for the contacts model, and we create then the belongs to relationship. Then we move to creating a few factories, 2 factories I think, that seeds our database so that we later add some dashboard metrics and pie charts. We will take a look at creating policies and creating lenses and actions, and finally we will see how we can make a custom theme. So let's get started. First we are going to install Laravel Nova, and be sure to check the minimum requirements. I'm going now to install Laravel Nova by Composer, and if you have done this previously with version 3, you will find it almost the same, however with one change, which is using license key instead of your password for the authentication. So we can add this code into our Composer JSON, or as I prefer, using this command line. I will copy it and go to our terminal, then paste. Now what this have done for us is it added this section, which is basically the same thing that we see here in the repositories. Now we have to manually add Laravel Nova to our Composer. So you can add this line. I will copy it, come back to our Composer JSON. I will paste it here, save, then Composer update preferred list. I will copy it. I will run it in my terminal. One thing I have done wrongly before, which is I didn't use sail. Now it worked because it wasn't requiring PHP version, but for this one it will require the PHP version, and my machine has 7.4 while this project has 8, and this one is running on Docker, as you can see. So it will require sail. Here I am going to enter my username, and then for the password I'm going to go to my license key. I will copy it, paste. Now finally we have 2 more commands. The Laravel Nova install command, which is this one. I will copy it, run it to my terminal. I have to use sail, then the migration command. Let's check if everything is working. So I will go to my local host. If we type Nova, now we have the login page. We need to create a new user to behave as our admin. So let's go to the terminal. I will write sail php artisan Nova user. It will prompt to insert a name, email, and password. So this is done now. Let's go back to the Laravel Nova login page. Now this is the first time I use Laravel Nova version 4. So what I noticed here that is new, there is the dark and light mode, and there is the notifications, and also there is here the red unregistered. Now because this is local host, it's not an issue. But when you go to the production, you need to give a license key in the environment file. So for more information, you can go to the installation, and at the top there is something called registering Nova license key, and you can follow the information here to add the Nova license key to your environment file. But as I said, this is for a production environment. So let's continue. So now we can see the dashboard. Let's create our first resource, which is the campaign. So I will go to my code editor, I will be using the terminal from the Visual Studio Code as it's easier for me to see. Now to create a resource, we run the following command. Now if we go to the app folder, Nova folder, then you will find the campaign PHP. This class, it's a resource and it basically corresponds to campaign model that we have in the models folder. And later we are going to create a contact also resource. Now without adding anything else to this resource file, we can go to the dashboard and just refresh. You will see that under resources we have now this resource campaigns. We didn't have to do anything to bring this resource into the Nova dashboard. All we had to do is just run that single command. Now you may have noticed that I have done something in the background which is clearing the database. So let's make the seed option now. Sale PHP artisan migrate fresh seed. Now this will create a new database, and with that comes the downside is that I don't have anymore my user account. So if I go to the seed database seeder, you'll notice that here we have a user factory that we commented in a previous tutorial. So I will create just one user here, one user, and instead of just creating a random user, I will add the following. I will run again the same command, PHP artisan migrate fresh seed. Now if I go back again to the login page and I change this to password, so now we have the database migrated. So let's check campaigns. As you can see, I have the following 10 records, and that's because here in the database seeder I have 10. So if I have 100, and let's save this one. If I have 100, if I write the same command again, refresh, you will find that we have 100 records. Now all we see here is the ID and view, edit and delete buttons. So how we add the other fields? We can do that by going to the resource file again. Let's close the seeder. First, you see here there is the title and the search that's referencing the ID. I will keep it as it is right now, and so we can see what it is actually. But I will go here to the fields method and I will add a text, and it's using not the faker, it's the Laravel Nova fields. So we will make now the name. The name, if we go to the campaign table, here you can see I have the UUID, title, location, all these fields. So for these database fields, we will create Laravel Nova fields with the same attributes. So if it's a string, then it's a text, date time, text, it's basically a text area, and etc. So let's see what we can do here. I will copy all of these. I just pasted them as they are. So we can start by the title, and we can see this one is sortable. Or let's say for starters, let's just make the fields without any additions. For the date, we can set it like this. So date time from Laravel Nova fields, and it's start date. I'm sure that you have noticed the way I type the field name. So what I am basically doing here, converting this snake case into this normal readable text. Now without doing anything else, because these are the most important fields that should show on the index page. This is what we call the index page. Now apparently I have to do some casting here for the date time, and as you can see, start date, and the same will be also for the date time, for the end date. So if I go to the campaign model, here we can add a protected cast we have start date, that is date time, the same for the end date. Let's refresh. Now as you can see, this is the data that we have. However, if you notice that only the ID is sortable, and because it's taken too much space, I don't think location is needed. So let's work on this. Can go back to the resource file of the campaign. For the title, I will make it sortable. For the location, I will say hide from index, and for the end date, I will say the same, hide from index. And for the start date, it's also sortable. And if I refresh, now you can see I can order events by their start date or by title or by ID. So that's better now. Let's see what we can do on the view page. And as you can see, it is referencing the ID here. And if I were to search for example, for this word, I will not be able to find it even though it's there. So to do that, to fix that, we come back to the search and title. So for the title, I would say it's basically the title, and for the search, I will leave the ID if someone is searching by ID, but I can also add title, I can add UUID, you can add the location if you want, but I think this is sufficient enough. So if I just search for it, you will see the results. So I can go to any one of these, for example. Now let's add the rest of the fields. Now I have added all these fields, so let's remove them. And for the title, I think I removed it by mistake. So it's this. And it's not hidden, it's sortable. Save, refresh. Now we have the same as previously. Let's continue our example. Now we have the index ready, we have the detail ready. This is what we call detail page, and we need now to create or edit the campaign. All the fields are there. There is something that I deliberately did, which is, for example, if I don't have a parking, is it required or not? I'm not sure if it's by default nullable or by default required. So let's update. So it worked for the parking because it's nullable. Now let's check the title. So the title, I think it's required. So if I go back to the campaigns table, it's required. The title is the only field that is required. So if I remove this one, if I remove the title and just create update, you will see that it ran into this issue. But we don't want the user to hit the database to figure out that this field is required, and also here it doesn't show any asterisk or any detail that shows that this field is required. And to do that, we can just add a simple thing to our resource, write rules, and it's required. And for example, you can say that max is 255 characters. Now if we refresh, reload, if we refresh, you will see that the title has an asterisk, and if we click and update, you will see the title is required. So going back to our campaign index, now if we click on the delete, it's working by default. We don't have to do anything. Now we have the 99 records, and if we are going to create a replicate, it will create a replication. Now as you can see, the created at and updated at, we don't want them to show on the edit page, so I think it's better to hide them also. You can hide when creating or updating, or on forms except on forms. So now they will not show on the edit and create, but they will show on the detail page. So let's go back to the detail. As you can see, we have the created that and updated that. Now let's create the other resource, which is the contacts resource. For the contact, I will copy the same fields. I will come to the contact. It's not the same fields, but it's easier to do this way. Let's just import the fields. So we have UUID, the same thing. We have first name, last name, company, and mobile. We don't have a text area, and I will keep the rest as they are. Let's save and let's check now. As you can see, we have now the contacts and it's empty, but we can create one. Now there is something that we need to fix, which is hiding the UUID from the create and update, and also automatically fill the field data when creating. Now for that, I will add to both models, contact and campaign. It's basically a static method, the boot method. In the event of creating a contact, it will look for a field called UUID and then fill that with a unique UUID using the helper from the string. It's just imported. The same I will do for the campaign. And inside Nova resource, the UUID, I need to hide it from index also, except on forms. I will copy it from contact. I will replace it also on the campaign. Now let's refresh, reload, yes. So let's create a new one. Now this was created successfully, and you can see also the UUID is generated, but the email is wrong here because it's not being validated. To add the validation to the email, come back to the contact resource, and for the rules, it's required and it's an email and maximum 255. So now if I were to edit this one and I just hit update, you will see that the validation works. So it requires now an email, and now it was updated successfully. However, we need to fix also the title for this one. So for the title, it will be full name. Now I don't think that we have full name. So let's refresh. It should show an error, or at least it's not showing anything here because the full name does not exist. And to do that, campaign model, contact model, we will add a get attribute. So we have a function get full name attribute, and it returns this first name this last name, and here I'm missing this one. So yeah, so if I refresh, I think I shouldn't add this one. Yeah, so now we have the full name. So we have contacts, we have campaigns, and for the contact I don't think I need. And one thing here is wrong is that hide from index should be after the except, because they have done the exception. So refresh. Now we don't have that here, but if we go to the edit, we see it. To the detail, we see it. If we go to the edit, we don't see it. So that's correct. So now let's test our front end. Does it work? So I will grab, for example, this campaign. I will just, it's 98, okay. So I will grab its UID. I will come to the localhost, type campaigns. So now we have the campaign, it's ready. Now if I fill the information, so we have this information now. Let's submit. So it's submitted, okay. Let's check our contacts. Now we should have a new contact. Excellent, we have all the information captured. However, the notes and whether the person is going or not going, it's not showing. So to show that, we will have to add the belongs to. In the database, we have a relation. From this database connection, you can see now we have this pivot table campaign contact, and it has one single record that has the submission. So to relate the campaigns and contacts together, we should have the campaigns belongs to many, this one, on the contact, and vice versa on the campaign. So the campaign has contacts and belongs to many contact with the pivot and timestamps. So remember, this is belongs to many. And if we go to the campaign Nova resource, we can add here belongs to many Nova field. We can make. Now if it is empty like this without any additions, it will show the contacts. So for example, let's go to the campaign, and it was 98, and I believe I have a typo. So I think in the models I have, yeah, interest. Okay, I think it's not here only, also here. Yeah. So enter interest. Sorry, it was interested on the database, so it should be here interested and here interested. Now if I refresh, as you can see, now we have all the contacts who submitted to this campaign. And let's try another contact. This time it's not going, and so now that worked, but I think there is some debugging needs to be done here. If you check the campaign, we can see that Jane Doe is added here also, and we need to see the pivot data. So we can add to the campaign contacts, we can add here fields. It's basically a function that returns an array of fields. These fields are additional to the contacts. So we have 3 booleans and 1 text area. I think there is an error here. Yeah, this missing. Now if we refresh, as you can see, John Doe, he is going, and Jane Doe, she is not going. And if we select the edit attached, we can see the information here. So I think we have reached here to our end of this chapter. So we have installed Laravel Nova, created resources for campaign and contact models, and saw how we can implement the belongs to many relationship. So see you inshallah in the next one.